welcome to this podcast by Author in Me. My name is Ekta Bajaj. I'm the co-founder of Author in Me and also a very ardent believer in the magic of positive thinking. I have been an advocate of this concept of positive thinking for many years and seen some magical transformation happening just by changing a single thought in our mind. So every thought that we have in our mind has the capability of completely transforming our life. And I've actually seen that. So it's always a pleasure to speak to people who believe in the same concept. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have Rohit Sahoo with me today here. Now, Rohit is a spiritual guide and meditation teacher, and he has been tirelessly giving his spiritual guidance since many years. But I'll let Rohit introduce himself. Welcome, Rohit, and thank you so much for taking your time to speak to us today.
It's my pleasure and honor to have been extended this invite to appear on your podcast, Ekta.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your kind, heartfelt words of appreciation. Echoing your thoughts, I am an ardent believer in the power of thought.
Yes.
And an advocate of unleashing the limitless power which is inherent in each one of us, and this is, I would, if I may say, is the guiding mission of my life as to how I can pave way for humanity to discover and unlock this power within themselves, which has been obscured, which has gotten obscured due to their conditioning and due to myriad other factors, which we would delve into as we progress in this conversation. And given the pioneering work you are doing in instilling the next generation, which is the children, instilling in children the empowering beliefs and ethos which can step them up for greater success, meaning and fulfillment in their life. And I totally believe that the fact that you have extended me invite is an act of great service to me, because I believe that children are the flag bearers of the next of this world, because they are the ones who are going to shape our future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important that all of us in our own way empower them with the key techniques, insights, and beliefs, harnessing which they can transform their life and be of great value to themselves and the society at large.
Absolutely. So well said, Rohit. But Rohit, it's very hard for children and people nowadays to find someone as young as you as an idol who is not, a Bollywood star or someone, but someone who is actually speaking about harnessing this power of mind and speaking these concepts, which have been, I totally believe, given to us by our ancient sages and the textbooks. I am a total believer in the power of Vedanta as well, and I totally believe that there is a plethora of knowledge that our ancestors knew, and only if we are able to tap into a small bit of it, we will be able to create some amazing miracles in life. So I want to understand your journey. What brought you into this?
What brought me into this? I would say it has been the handiwork of the universal intelligence, the divine. The divine has played a pivotal role in shaping my life journey as it is unfolding. Tracing my spiritual journey to tracing it way back to 2009, beg your pardon, when I had just enrolled myself in one of the most prestigious B schools in India, which is IIM Calcutta. Few weeks into my stint, I was overcome by an existential sense of listlessness, an existential conundrum, which I was proving very hard to navigate. And it took me to a point where I was left with no other resort but to seek refuge in the infinite intelligence. And that's when I had personally experienced the power of surrender. And it was the power of surrender. It was this profound experience of the power of surrender, which invariably marked the onset of my spiritual journey, because that experience was so powerful in a way that it really resurrected me from the bottomless abyss of misery, despondency, and unfathomable darkness to to having been resurrected from those depths of sadness and depression and forlornness to a new life, in both metaphorical sense and in a way, and also quite literally. I was left with no other resort but to plunge myself into the spiritual dimension of our existence. And spirituality per se is usually considered as being somewhat exclusive to our normal day-to-day life, but I would rather say that spirituality underpins our entire existence. There's an often heard proverb which might sound a bit cliche, but we have all heard this, that we are essentially spirits having a human experience. But notwithstanding the cliched nature of this proverb, but it actually rings very true that we are spirits having a human experience. To that degree, if we are aware of this truth, I believe that we would set ourselves for immeasurable success, happiness, and inner peace. To a degree, we are misaligned with this understanding. To that degree, we unconsciously create and invite suffering in our life, because that leads us to misidentify our worth and truth with external objects, material pursuits, which often, if not always, but most of the times, it really leads you down a path which creates more suffering. But if that pursuit of material happiness, success is pursued from a spiritual understanding, so then you can have best of both the worlds. You can grow spiritually, and yet you can actualize your vision in the material dimension. So that is one of my key mission, is to bridge this dichotomy, this unnatural dichotomy between spirituality and materialism, as it has been, projected to the world. And this dichotomy has to be abridged, because these dichotomy is unnatural. It doesn't hold true, because life in its totality encompasses every dimension. Materialism, spirituality, these are all mind-born concepts which we exercise to distinguish between different realms of life. But all realms, all dimensions of life are inherently connected, and they're underpinned by this sense of oneness which pervades throughout our existence.
So many concepts that you have touched, and each one of them requires a deep understanding. And I believe right from the time when you said about surrender, about having no distinction between a materialistic life and spiritual life, because obviously every act is because we are spiritual beings, we don't have to learn spirituality. We already are that. We just have to learn to be ourselves. And to the point of oneness, everything really comes down to the point of bringing the focus on ourselves, isn't it? I'm really impressed that you went into the depth of darkness, and from there you found your light, and somewhere you probably just followed that light and expanded it in many beautiful areas in your life. And clearly the result is quite obvious to all of us. But this understanding of self, how important you think it is to really scrutinize yourself without any judgment, without any fear of actually discovering something new that you probably didn't know. Do you think self-analysis, understanding and getting a real picture of who you really are is the first step towards creating that transformation, or actually moving towards a better life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If I may say, self-awareness precedes transformation. True, lasting, authentic transformation is preceded by self-awareness. What does self-awareness essentially entail? Self-awareness essentially entails being aware of yourself. As we become more aware of ourselves, we see through the ploys and machinations which our ego or a conditioned mind plots, and how it entangles us in its web, which, if I may say, which leads us further away from ourselves. So what is it that we usually understand by self? As I understand self, self is our pure awareness, our consciousness, our spirit. Mm-hmm. That is a self, being aware of oneself, not being aware of the identity which the world or society has imposed upon me or you or anyone else, because these are external identities. These are external labels which are not substantial. These are not substantive. These are not the marker, the highest marker of your truth. The highest marker of your truth is which is immune to external categorizations and external labeling. That aspect of you which is beyond scrutiny, which is inscrutable, which is undifferentiated, timeless, eternal, that is what is our self. And as we grow in awareness of that self, we invariably start to magnetize ourselves with the power of the infinite. Because as we grow aware of ourselves, we, by that very virtue, we grow aware of our inseparable connection with God, divine, infinite. So as we grow more aware of our inseparable connection with God, the infinite, we start to draw upon that inexhaustible reservoir, incomprehensible level of power and energy. And if we start to harness that, then there's no goal, no vision which cannot be accomplished. That has been my lived experience. That is what I believe that must be illuminated to the world. That power which resides in each and every one of us, which has gotten obscured by conditioning, by our traumatic experiences, by the cycle of karma, which gets created by our mind-born actions, which creates more bad karma. That that hamster wheel of karma, the hamster wheel of karmic cycle. If it grows unreined, if it starts to move unreined, then it will accelerate our misalignment with ourselves. So that's where meditation plays a critical role, to help us drop back into ourselves.
Draw the focus.
So as we drop into ourselves, we grow more aware of ourselves. As we grow more aware of self, we recognize our power. We recognize that we are fulfilled as we are. We recognize our inner beauty. We recognize our worth. And a sense of inner worth, this awareness of inner worth, goes hand in hand with increasing sense of belief. And increasing sense of belief goes hand in hand with one's ability to accomplish what they set out themselves for.
Yeah, it is a cycle, isn't it? It just goes one after another. And as you just roll on this journey, there will be challenges, and it's not that the challenges won't come, but then there is a better, you have the better capacity to just face the challenge.
Yes.
And the comeback time of that trauma, it just lessens and lessens and lessens until it becomes like a little small shift in your thought, well, I don't have to go into that direction. I just have to go in this direction. It's just that journey, isn't it? But
Absolutely.
mind is our biggest enemy and also our best friend, isn't it?
Yes.
And the job of mind, if we just take it as an entity, if we just separate it from ourselves, is just to assimilate information, whatever information it's getting outside or from within, and just throw those thoughts to us without any filter. But because sometimes we become such a slave of our mind, we think that these are thoughts that will actually drive our life. And we start following the thoughts, and that's where the pattern of anxiety and depression and losing a lot of confidence comes. So the whole trick is actually to just focus on this mind and understand which is the right thought and which is the wrong thought for me to follow. So how do you unleash this power of mind? How do you tap into this power of mind, and in a way that it complements your journey and doesn't become a hindrance in that?
Hmm. Hmm. I think you raised a very important point, that and it's the truth. It's a fact that a mind, as it in a current in a prevailing state for most of this world, in this prevailing state is very uncontrolled. It's susceptible to absorb and get influenced by external stimuli and information and content, which it makes itself privy to, which invariably leads any individual feel that he or she is being pulled by many different directions. And as you feel that you are being pulled in many different directions, your mind is akin to a jamboree of different it's a jamboree of different thoughts, different visions. Then you must understand that in that state of awareness, in that state of mind awareness, it's simply impossible to bring your vision to light, because the fundamental prerequisite to actualize a vision into reality is our tunnel vision, is our coherence in thought, in a single pointedness towards that vision. And that single pointedness of vision is a flowering of our increasing self-awareness. As we become more aware, we start to identify ourselves with our spirit. That invariably severs our attachment with the mind. As we grow detached from the mind, we can start to observe it from a distance. As we start to observe it from a distance, we can then mold it as per our wish. We can direct it to pay attention to a particular thought or a vision. As we grow more adept in this, we can eventually come to a point wherein we can clearly command over the mind, and we can commandeer the mind to direct itself on a particular thought or a particular vision or a particular goal. When that state is activated, then the manifestation of any goal, vision, thought is a foregone conclusion that will inevitably come true. But for that to come about, one has to learn and then get established in oneself.
Establish in myself. That's a very beautiful sentence, because we often don't understand. We just stay in that moment for a while, and then we're just off the track, and then we just go through that spiral.
Yes, there are innumerable folks who reach out to me saying that we think, but it's what we think bad comes true, but whatever we want, it doesn't come true. And then over time they grow skeptical about the power of thought, the power of mind, and they grow increasingly disenchanted from this dimension. But I tell them that it's not the fault of the immutable truth. The truth by its very nature is immutable. it's inviolable.
Yeah.
The fact that you have not been able to tap into the truth is a sign of your inability and misunderstanding of this law. You are not exercising the right tool, technique to tap into this power. So your failure to do so is not a statement on the truth. The truth stands on its own. It doesn't need your validation. The fact that if you are not able to do it is a sign of your inability. It's a sign of your inherent deficiencies in your understanding of how to activate this truth, how to activate this power. So I think it's that's where meditation plays a pivotal role in one, resolving our past conditioning, reprogramming our subconscious mind, establishing oneself in our spirit. And if you combine all these three together, it it proves to be an powerful cocktail to achieve your goals.
But as we have, we are moving ahead in life, and with so many new challenges coming in the world as well. And also because people are now moving away from each other and also from themselves, and depending more on the feedback that they're getting on social media and stuff like that. So there is an increase in obviously depression and many more mental well-being issues in adults that we are seeing.
Yes.
Absolutely. But because we also work with children, right? Because that's the whole area that we want to really work on, is that children must be embedded with this mindset, or with these tools that when they are growing up. Because if we are facing challenges now, imagine how many more challenges are coming ahead in life. But if they are equipped enough to face these challenges in a very positive way and not lose the focus, then there is a better chance that we will have a much more harmonious world where people are more tolerant towards each other, more forgiving to themselves, and they are able to handle the traumas in a positive way and see them as a stepping stone towards a new learning in their life. And I always believe this, that suffering is just a word. We put our energy on it. What if suffering meant joy? What if it meant something else? But it's a word where we have put our energy of pain. But what if we just change that and put an energy of learning in it? Then we just look back and say, well, I was not suffering all those years, I was learning. So these are the things that I believe that we must instill in the next generation, so that they don't have to depend on anyone and anything to be able to harness into this innate quality that they're already born with. So how important do you think it is to first embed a positive mindset in children? And how do we introduce these very complex subjects or topics which have been made complex, but like you said, truth is very simple. They are actually very simple. So how do we simply introduce them? For us, we use our technique, that is one: observation, nurture, embrace. But what do you think about instilling these values or this concept to children? How do we prepare them?
Children, as we spoke, and as you so beautifully articulated, children are the flag bearers of our civilization. Beyond 30, 40, 50 years down the line, the children who we consider them as children would be the ones who would be spearheading the march of our civilization, say, a few decades down the line. And therefore it becomes extremely important and, if I may say, it's incumbent upon thought leaders, teachers, guardians, parents, mentors to instill within children the empowering thoughts, beliefs, and values which they can exercise to thrive in their life to really prove to be of value to this world, which is increasingly facing challenges of varying natures and forms. Now, the concepts of power of thought, the concept of harnessing the power of meditation has been quite rightly, not rightly, if I may say, has been unfortunately mystified by over the ages by many. And I don't want to make use of this platform to name any particular institution or individuals for that matter. However, if truth be told, these concepts have been mystified, and it's important that we demystify and strip these concepts of their theological underpinnings, the theological overt religious bearings. Not so much in a sense that I'm an atheist. No, I'm very religious. I'm very spiritual. However, I think children, as they are young, in a very impressionable age, we must make it easy for them to really grasp these concepts and put them to use in their daily lives. And yes, as they grow old, as parents, as mentors and guardians, in our own way, we can, instill in them values and values born of our cultural bringing, religious traditions. So, if to your question, how do we do it?
Yes.
I think that's where AIM has a pivotal role to play, given you have established yourself as one of a kind global platform, empowering children to realize their inherent worth by aiding their journey of evolution and growth through offering them tools, access to mentors, access to guides and teachers who can hold space for these children as they rediscover and continually discover and rediscover their selves. And that's where I would I believe that AIM should definitely start. I'm not aware that if you are already, but if not,
yes,
then I would highly recommend you to in some way or form introduce meditation and and power of thought into your curricula. And I'm given to understand that in your proprietary training methodology, you have in some way or form already have included observation as a technique to enable the children to be better at their activities. But yes, if besides that, meditation should definitely be introduced. I understand that it still evokes some sense of hesitance. It might evoke some sense of hesitance from guardians and parents of children who are not traditionally from, I would say, an Eastern religious background. They might view it as an infiltration to their way of life. But I would like to believe that in our age, meditation stands on its own. It doesn't necessarily has to be viewed from a religious lens, even though meditation has been a gift to the world by the ancient seers from the Indic civilization.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's a global heritage. It's a heritage for the entire world and the humanity to partake in. It's not an exclusive possession of a few or
I think it's more integrated in us as human beings, isn't it? It's more of exercise for us as human beings, just to control our breath. Because
I would say it's an exercise of a spirit.
Of a spirit, yes. But for those who don't understand spirit, they can just consider themselves as human beings, and it's just a more positive.
Just to calm their mind, be aware of their thought, be aware of themselves.
Yes. So, Rohit, I'm also very intrigued now to talk to you about stories, because, we publish books written by children and we empower people to express themselves to stories. How important do you think stories are? And has there been any story that has played a very important role in your life? Have you been inspired by any story?
Yeah, I have been inspired by story. And story, storytelling and story per se has enamored and enchanted humanity since time immemorial. Since the dawn of human civilization, we have harnessed storytelling as a mode and a medium to pass on
Yes.
sacred spiritual knowledge, insights to the next generation, to the world. So storytelling is in fact etched into human consciousness. It
Mm.
pretty much defines humankind, and I'm no exception. I'm no exception to being profoundly impacted by stories. And I have definitely been profoundly influenced by many stories of, and one of the story which has left an indelible imprint on my awareness is the story of Gautam Buddha,
Oh,
how
yes.
he transitioned, how he evolved from the Prince Siddhartha, and his journey from Prince Siddhartha, and if I may say so, metamorphosis from a Prince Siddhartha to Buddha.
Mm.
And that's very story, uh, you know, enchanted me, mesmerized me to such a degree that I chose Gautam Buddha as my, as the topic for my, from a theme paper which I was supposed to write in my elective, one of my electives in my post graduation. And and that story is the archetype of my consciousness, because this story has informed my spiritual journey.
Mm.
I would, that story has informed, it continues to inform my spiritual journey, continues to shape my spiritual journey, continues to guide my spiritual journey, continues to continues to
Just
mesmerize me.
so
It just
how young were
envelops
you
me
when
every
you
day.
when was the age when you first heard about that story? Or was it some?
I would, if I may be, so that was in 2009. That's when I really
Mm.
first read that story, first felt that story in
Mm.
its depth. I think way back in 2009, I would have been, say, around 21,
Oh, wow.
21, 22. Yeah.
And that has been your guiding light since then, is it?
Yeah, that has been my guiding light. Yes, that
Okay.
story has been my guiding light.
Fabulous. Because, when we are working with children, and I totally believe that stories are a very extension of our own personality. Every story we write. I don't know if you use writing as a medium to express yourself, because obviously you do write articles, but is it something that you use to just analyze a situation or not? But we have seen that children sometimes will, when they are writing a story, the protagonist will be derived from some strength within them. The antagonist will be a problem that they are facing in general in their life. So my question here is, how important do you think is this expression? Because there is one thing as learning, there is one thing as understanding. And you went through a certain shift in your life. You went through a certain inner dialogue, went through a transformation. You created this life for yourself. But do you think it's very important to express these experiences and share them? How important do you think is expression in this journey of, let's say, evolving yourself as a person? Because sometimes people can just close themselves with those experiences and then move in their life and be very aware of what people are going to be thinking about them or stuff like that. And which is something I'm a total believer that we have to break this barrier of thought, and especially in children or people, that no matter what anyone thinks, this is your story, your journey, your experiences. You have to find that space to express that. So what is the importance of expression in your life?
Expression is critical. Self expression is a flowering, self-expression is a flowering of one's spiritual growth. As you rightly said, that you, like yourself, I have also come across so many who have shrunk themselves into their narrow corners, into their dark spaces. In a metaphorical sense, they have shrunken themselves into their own dark corners, lest they might be judged unfavorably by people around themselves. And it's an unfortunate situation which has grown into epidemic proportions, where people are shying away from owning their truth. They are shying away from speaking their truth. They're shying away from embodying their truth. And as you shy away from owning and speaking your truth, you become fragmented within yourself. Your psyche becomes fragmented. As the psyche becomes more fragmented, your mind gets more convoluted. As your mind gets more convoluted, it plunges you far off from yourself, from your spirit, from your source of power, from your true source of power. So you grow increasingly lost. You experience an inexplicable sense of listlessness, sadness, to a point that people lose sense of why things are happening to them, and they lose hope, and they go about their mundane life as if they are just meant to live a life of drudgery, meaninglessness, devoid of purpose, devoid of a vision. And this is, if I may say so, is a spiritual crisis. This is a spiritual crisis. The lack of expression is a spiritual crisis. And when I say expression, though it usually connotes external expression, but expression can also be an internal expression. Expression doesn't necessarily has to be expressed on an external canvas. It can also be expressed in your internal canvas, but expression is paramount. The act of meditation is also an expression. Buddha was an artist. He was the supreme artist.
Wow.
Because he chose the art of meditation, and he expressed his art to a degree that it flowered a new birth, it flowered a new dimension in him, from Siddhartha to Buddha.
Beautifully said.
So we must identify our art. We must identify the art through which we must express our truth.
Wow.
So that expression would be the source of indescribable fulfillment, which otherwise people pursue in wrong places, and they feel themselves always missing out on lasting sense of joy and happiness, because they're always seeking that happiness in the wrong place, because they have not yet identified what is it that their self yearns to express, and through what medium and mode it yearns to express itself. That is what I believe must be must be brought to children's awareness, that they must be guided to identify their art, which is their own soul signature. Now, we all carry our own distinct signature. We are all here for a reason. We are all here for a purpose. And as we grow aligned with our purpose, expression becomes a second nature.
It becomes natural. Beautiful. Rohit, I could just go on and on and speak to you, but we have a time limit, and I'm aware that you have some place to go. Maybe it's Saturday evening for you, and I don't want to hold you back. So thank you so much for being with us today, and it was absolute pleasure speaking to you. There is such a synergy of thoughts here that the conversation is just flowing naturally, and I love that. I'm sure whoever is going to listen to this is going to find something which can become a catalyst for change in their life. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Ekta. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and honor to have partook in this amazing conversation.